is that in nowhere, shape, or form is that the case. That his name is not on this slide. It has no indicators that Elizondo ran the program. But before we get to Kona Blue, I did want to get to so the famously, do you know how David Grush was saying that he formerly had never been in talks with Arrow about any meetings or anything like that?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, the Black Vault releases this. This is from David Grush to the Arrow staff. And it says, with due respect, I will need answers to my questions before I will be comfortable meeting. Please provide responses so that we can hopefully move forward and schedule a meeting. The law may grant your office need to know, but does not establish policies and procedures with various data owners. I've managed multi-compartmented activities throughout my entire career and have multiple DSCA security professional certifications. I did not ask these questions for mere curiosity. Signed, DG, which I assume David Grush. Now, I I'm not I'm not attacking Grush, but this seems a little weird. Why deny any? Now, maybe in his head, I know people like him, when they say certain things, they mean it in a different way, where maybe he never, because it sounds like he asked them questions, they wouldn't answer them. They still wanted to meet with them, but they wouldn't answer the questions, or do what he was asking. So maybe he thought by them not doing that, like they didn't try to formally meet because they didn't. So it could just be miscommunication, totally. But I find it weird that he would say that, or not because he's been very open. He's been very, very transparent and nothing but commendable in my book. But this contradicts what he said. Is very disheartening, honestly.
Yeah, it's that's curious. I'm not sure what to make of that. If
Because
he
it
if there's
seems so trivial.
it does, yeah. And like you said, he seems like someone who has been, he's been consistent in his message every time. Certainly his resume is impeccable. So, there must be a simple explanation for this. What was Black Vault saying when you said it was Black Vault who released this, right?
Yeah, he just did his job. He released it. He didn't put
Yeah.
context to it because there's
So,
no context that you can put to it
okay.
other
So he
than
didn't
what.
have any context. Is that's because
Yeah,
that's what I was asking.
but he had been trying to formally, because Arrow maintained, and Sean Kirkpatrick maintained the narrative and the story that they reached out to David Grush. John was like, okay, well, clear, I'll be able to FOIA that. So yeah, he kept going, he kept trying, and eventually this came to him. He got this from that that trial and tribulation, and it confirms that Arrow it was in talks with Grush to some degree. Now, to what that means to David Grush, and to what it means to meet versus email exchange with a staffer. Um, I mean, it could be as simple as that, right? Is it him not considering this formal?
Right. Yeah, it
So
could. I usually like to try to give people the benefit of the doubt until they've proven to me that, I can't trust them. And certainly David Grush has really tried, really hard. I mean, he's done a very good job, I think, of showing that he is a trustworthy, exemplary guy. So maybe we can give him the benefit of the doubt on this
yeah,
until we get more information. But if you ever get a chance to talk to him, certainly this would be like
oh
a
yeah,
very good
yeah.
First question to pose. What's this about, Dave?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm trying to figure out, because I can download this, and then if I open the file, I can share it. I can share it or in a different way, where it's like slides. Yeah, okay, here it is. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Because I made like a special thing for it. So okay, so they've here is Arrow released this. And this is a set of slides, and it is, I mean, it's 56 slides. We're not going through the whole thing. There's just no way. But I do want to go through some of it the stuff that it talks about, because I mean, this is a remote viewing program. I mean, it is exactly that. What it describes is, the project description here says this project will investigate, identify, and analyze sensitive information, advanced materials, and technologies to increase the basic knowledge of potential emerging and or disruptive scientific and technical data. This project addresses basic, applied, and advanced research and technology demonstrations in order to identify and anticipate threats to the U.S. homeland. But it sounds like ATIP and OSAP. I mean, usually these kind of national security heavy emphasis programs get accepted. So, so far, I'm not seeing anything that stands out or would get them denied. A unified approach will be used for data collection and analysis, advanced technology acquisition, applied technology theory demonstration. I figured it out, guys. I know why it got denied. It says right in it, consciousness studies. And we don't take that seriously in the scientific community. So that's why it got denied, is it has something to do with most likely consciousness. Because for some reason the government in up front doesn't take it seriously. Why is that? We don't know. But everything up into, see how they list it last, consciousness studies? They were trying to sneak that in there. Because that always, like, physicists won't even utter those words, consciousness studies, because that would mean it makes it real. And for some reason, they won't touch the consciousness subject. Nobody will, aside from people like us in our community.
Yeah,
so
there's one, because I've been interested in consciousness studies also. So I follow that, and there is a PhD in the psychology department at the University of Arizona, and boy, I cannot remember his name right now. He is pretty much on the cutting edge of consciousness studies right now. A simple Google search would reveal it, but he's done a lot of research into tubules and microtubules in the brain, and is that would be a whole show in itself. But
right,
so there
but
are some real docs who are doing. He's a PhD psychologist, and he's an anesthesiologist, and which seems like a great pairing, to be studying consciousness. Dr. Hammerhoff, that's who it is. It's Dr. Hammerhoff at the University of Arizona, and he is on the cutting edge of consciousness studies right now. And I highly recommend anybody interested in consciousness studies to look up his work. It's Stuart Hammerhoff. Really, really, he's written some books. So consciousness is, it's a hot topic, it is.
Well, another thing, and if you look down at the bottom here, guys, where it says at the bottom here, total funding is in millions. So, in fiscal year 2012, they would have received an initial 12 million. The next year, the budget would have doubled to a little bit over double, and it would have went to 25 million. Um, by the third year, the budget would increase to 35 to 50 million. And then it was set up to be a 7-year proposed plan, and the last 4 years to be decided or determined. So they were thinking that this is going to be a 50 at least. Um, let's say 50, 75, 80, 87, a minimum the first 3 years, $87 million to study to study consciousness. And this is right around the time that AAWSAP and Arrow, not Arrow, AAWSAP comes into to the play, and $22 million gets pushed over there. So, do you think that they either so do you think that there's a possibility that this project did move forward, but it moved forward under a different name and they just couldn't justify the money?
Or it moved forward and, that's completely top secret or above, and we would never have access to that. Like, I'm surprised this has even come out because, so it sounds like this was the proposal, right? And
Yes, so this is what they call a PUSAP. So proposed unacknowledged special access program.
Special access program.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would think that this kind of research is definitely going on. Maybe
But
this not the specific proposal. Maybe, like you said, the budget was too much, or maybe it wasn't enough. We have no idea how much they put into these special access programs. And if you watch James Giordano on YouTube, he does a great presentation, and it was at the Naval Academy. And it's a DARPA he was from DARPA, and he was talking about how the brain is the battlescape of the 21st century. And so this entire presentation that he goes through, uh, and it's on YouTube, he talks about all of the technology that we have, all of the ways that we have to interfere with, manipulate, and disrupt consciousness. And he really painted wars of the future as not being with tanks and, guns, and not with, kinetic energy weapons, but with weapons that interfere with consciousness. And we've heard about that. We've heard about some of that in the news with Havana syndrome, and we still don't have a good explanation for that, other than it was the Russians on United States soil doing this to U.S. citizens. Which, if that was truly
not
the case,
even not
that's
even US not
war.
even just US citizens, but it started with US politicians in Havana, Cuba. That's where it got the Havana syndrome name.
Yeah, it
Was
actually
so
started
they were
before that, but what
well,
was
imagine
that was just the first time
targeting politicians and military personnel. I
it was
mean,
targeting
that's an act of war.
yeah, it was, yeah. So it started with targeting diplomats, U.S. diplomats. And yeah, that is most certainly an act of war. And we still don't have a good explanation for that. But I just think that that is a good example of how the brain really is the battlescape of the 21st century. We don't need kinetic weapons if we can do something, that interferes with somebody's perception or their behavior, or if we can manipulate their perceptions or somehow manipulate their behaviors or their thoughts or their beliefs. We don't need to fire a single shot. And so I really highly recommend the James Giordano DARPA lecture on YouTube, just to get an idea of, what we're going into in the future. Because, the
Yeah,
tinfoil hat conspiracy stuff, tinfoil sounded pretty good after I watched his lecture, although I think
right.
it was led.
Well, the
whoever
thing is,
goes into the lead hat business, they might have a real good